Hi, and welcome to the SparcStart TA Leader Series. Today, we're delighted to have Pam, CEO of Advanced RPO, join us as our guest as we talk about trends and things that are important to TA leaders and folks in the industry. So, Pam, let me start by asking you to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Pam Verhoff. I'm the president and CEO of Advanced RPO. I myself have been in the talent acquisition space for my entire career, primarily on the provider side in the RPO industry. So I've had the opportunity to work with clients that are very large in scope, hiring thousands of people a year, to our focus today is more mid-market clients that, some hire 100, others hire, 1,000 to 2,000 people a year. So I really enjoy working with customers to understand what their business requires of them and how to structure teams to ensure they're delivering that from a talent perspective.
Okay. And we've both got lots of experience in this industry, and the industry always changes, but right now it feels like there are changes on more different fronts than we've seen before. What are you seeing going on in the business in general?
You're right. There's a tremendous amount of change happening right now. We've seen, organizations have had to, their hiring is quite unpredictable, and therefore they've had to, in some organizations they've laid off recruiters, and their, TA team is much smaller than they're used, may have been a year ago. We're also looking at a time where technology abounds, if you will. The options that are in front of us as TA professionals, they're everywhere. And so organizations, I think, are struggling to understand and know where to bring in technology, and quite frankly, then how to prove the ROI on a technology once they do bring it into the organization. And then there's the reality of, we're balancing budgets and ensuring our, headcount is appropriate for plans going into, we are into 2024, in some cases going into 2025. So organizations are trying to balance all of that while still ensuring we've got the candidate experience front of mind as we're working through our processes.
And I mean, we're talking to TA leaders that don't know if they're supposed to be buying tech for manic hiring or massive layoffs.
Right.
It's that extreme. So
right.
It's like, what tech do I need? Just tell me what I need to do, and I can figure that out.
Right.
We're seeing lots of the hirings become more variable. The technology is there, and the candidate is changing too. I think all of this automation that we're driving in has got people disengaged. And so we're seeing ghosting rates like people have never seen before. And they're stunned by that. So what do you think the TA leader needs to do, whether it's structuring their organization? How do they wrap their heads around this and really start to run the high performance kind of organization that they want to run?
I think it is really important to understand what you need to accomplish, and then be thinking about the most effective and efficient way to deliver that. Whether that means building out a large team internally, or identifying a core team, having a core team internally, and it's offset with a partner that provides that, helps you with the ebbs and flows of hiring throughout the year, or throughout different seasons and so on. And I'll just a little shameless plug for partnering with an outsourced provider is, as we understand the technology, we help you understand who are you trying to attract from a candidate pool perspective. We've got market analytics that we're analyzing with each opening that you have to help educate hiring managers. And these, when you build out a TA function that has all of these capabilities, you're able to deliver the right candidates to the hiring managers much quicker.
But we found among the more sophisticated TA leaders that they understand that all hiring is not the same, that the skills and staffing and tools required for high volume is very different for hard to fill, which is very different for, whether it be international, that this idea that, I've got my department, I've got my recruiters, I've got my process, and that's going to work for everything, just isn't true. And there are different models that make sense for different things.
Right.
And stop trying to do the one size fits all.
Right.
Now, that gets hard when you're investing in technology. This is a great tool for this subsegment.
Right.
It doesn't work. You bankrupt yourself pretty quickly doing that kind of thing. So it for the folks who are doing it well, how are you seeing they approach it, or what differentiates the folks?
Well, I think I'll just elaborate on what you just stated. Is I think those that are doing it really well are those that do recognize and acknowledge that the approach to, recruiting, but, salaried individuals versus high volume hourly is very different, as is the process. And in a lot of cases, the tools that we're using. So structuring a team so that you are truly focused. You've got, a team of recruiters that understand how to go out to the market and look for candidates, identify, and then recruit candidates that are appropriate for the salaried level roles. And then, a process that is a bit more, it's much faster on the volume hiring hourly side. But I will say, while the process needs to be much faster, candidates' expectations are that they still understand what is this job. The technology there's so much automation that is it's amazing on the surface, but candidate adoption is important, and ultimately identifying the right candidates that actually start when you want them to start, to go back to your ghosting rates earlier. The more automated the process, the more candidates you will have that drop out of that process. So really understanding that high tech, high touch ratio is really, really critical. And we've seen organizations do it extremely well.
We've seen organizations do both sides. I have to admit, I'm appalled when I read about AI generated job descriptions based on a title. And if people don't expect they're going to have higher turnover because you've given, even assuming you can attract them and hire them, you've given them an absolutely generic, by definition, a generic job description, which may or may not have any relation to what they're actually going to do. I just want to say, just because you can doesn't mean you shouldn't. Or you should.
Right. You're exactly right. And then I think about the hiring managers then that, when these candidates start work and they don't have, they don't have that much information truly about the job, or a real true understanding of what's expected of them. So much of that, or all of it, should be handled prior to that individual starting first day. And when that happens, we have much better retention rates and just much high performing. You think about a high performing organization in general. People have to understand what's expected of them when they start a role. And the other piece, again, I see it among the really good TA leaders, is they understand the value of a well-educated candidate who's been given enough information to opt in or opt out appropriately. Right.
Because that makes the whole organization, the whole process more efficient as well. We see companies that go through screening interview after screening interview, and when they finally tell the candidate what the job's all about, they're not interested or they drop out or whatever. It's like, you didn't have to wait that long to give them really valuable information.
Right.
You just had a recruiter screen 7 people that weren't at all interested.
Right.
And you could have told them that up front.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes me think too about, organizations that are not intentional around who they're having interview candidates. And this is more on, on the exempt side of the house, but, organizations that we just want you to touch base with 5 people, 5 peers or what have you, and candidates having to go through, 5, 6, 7 interviews. And then, ultimately you've got, as a TA function, who ultimately is making the decision, and then who needs to be either informed or involved in making that actual decision. And those are the individuals that the candidates need to interview with. It's still astounding to me, the number of organizations that expect that candidates will, commit 10 hours of their time while they're actually working, and typically it's during the day, right? So, and we see a lot of really good candidates, fall out of that process for that very reason. So really understanding that is critical.
And I understand the intent of wanting the candidate to meet people and feel comfortable and have a sense of the folks. There's a perfect case where video, can do that. We've seen organizations who have a couple of people who do evaluative interviews, but then they'll send videos. So here's some other people on the team, so you can just get a sense of them, what they are. Seen really good work around once someone's offered, having team members make a quick video and say, hey, here's who I am, looking forward to working with you, that kind of stuff. You can still build that kind of familiarity, perhaps not as tightly as you can live, but much more efficiently for both sides. So lots of things you can do. But speaking of doing things efficiently, Pam, I want to be respectful of your time because I understand you've got a big organization to run, but always delightful to talk to you and get your perspective. And thank you. And hopefully we talk soon.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure.